In the quiet of the prince's room, clothes were scattered across the floor. The early morning light filtered in softly as Jasmine Riavani stirred, opening her eyes to find Prince Richard still asleep beside her. Her cheeks burned with realization, and she instinctively flinched. I think I've made a huge mistake, she thought. For 7 long years, Jasmine Riavani, the admired flower of high society, had quietly harbored feelings for Richard Aeon. As the famed sword of the empire and heir to the noble house Aeon, Richard was the object of admiration for countless young women. But while others eventually moved on, Jasmine remained. Despite his cold nature and distant demeanor, she had continued to care. Her devotion had endured even after he told her, with little emotion, that he had no interest in marriage. The words had wounded her, but she hadn't turned away. She had admired him from afar for so long that she never even had the chance to properly confess. But that night, everything had changed. The wine dulled her thoughts. The years of restraint unraveled quietly. One thing led to another, and before she knew it, she was in his room, alone with him. The feelings she had bottled up for so long began to spill over. If we take this any further, he said softly, you might regret it. She could have walked away. She knew that. But instead, she took a step closer, her hands trembling. We can stop now, he said again. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Just sleep with me. She looked up at him, vulnerable. If we do, maybe I'll finally be able to let go of you. Whether it was desperation or a need for closure, she couldn't tell. But something within her had broken open. The next few moments were a blur of warmth, closeness, and quiet ache. And then it was over. The weight of her decision came crashing down. I must have lost my mind, she muttered as she fumbled with her dress, trying not to cry. How could someone like me, a noblewoman, unmarried, do this? I wasn't thinking straight. Just as she reached the door, Richard's voice stopped her. Where do you think you're going? She froze. He was awake now, standing at the door, blocking her way. Her name left his lips, soft, uncertain. Jasmine. She turned, her voice low and conflicted. This isn't how I wanted things to happen. Her mind flashed back to the night before, when she had run into him at the casino. He had leaned closer and asked, You said you liked me. Was that a lie? She'd quickly dismissed it. Who told you that? She had said, laughing awkwardly. But inside, she wanted far more than just a fleeting moment. She wanted to be seen. To be loved. That night, when everything had escalated, Richard had paused briefly, removing his jacket with a flushed expression. I want you, he'd said, slowly unbuttoning his shirt. Then he met her gaze. Is this enough proof for you? She had blushed deeply, unable to look away. But even now, with her heart still racing, one thought remained. I want his heart, too. The next morning, Jasmine woke with a start, disoriented and breathless. She sat up abruptly, her heart pounding as fragments of the night before flooded her memory. What happened? She thought, gripping the silk sheets around her. She remembered the wine, the warmth of the room, and then, his voice. Do you want to sleep with me? Richard had asked calmly, his gray eyes steady in the candlelight. If we do, I think I'd be able to completely give up on you. Now, in the quiet of his room, her face flushed with both embarrassment and regret. I must have been out of my mind, she thought, fumbling with her dress as she reached the door. I think I clung to him. Maybe I even pounced on him. She buried her face in her hands. No, he seemed perfectly sober. I was the one who couldn't think straight. Lost in thought, she didn't hear his footsteps approach. Where do you think you're going? Richard's voice came from behind her, firm but quiet. She froze. His hand rested against the door, blocking her path. Jasmine, he said softly. She turned slowly, her expression tight and unreadable. Back in her room, Jasmine stood before the mirror as her maid helped her get dressed. She studied her reflection in silence, blonde hair, clear skin, elegant features. I meet the Empire's beauty standards, she murmured. No, I'm not just pretty. I'm considered one of the most admired women in high society. Her maid, Marie, gave a knowing smile. Am I unattractive? Jasmine asked suddenly. Impossible, my lady, Marie replied at once. Then is it my personality? Jasmine asked, her voice quieter, her eyes uncertain. That's nonsense, Marie said firmly. You're the daughter of the Grand Duke Riavani, admired for your grace and intelligence. You're everything the Empire expects in a future Duchess. Jasmine sat down with a heavy sigh. But what's the point of all that if he still doesn't love me? My feelings have remained unchanged for 7 years. She remembered it clearly. At 16, during her debutante ball, she had fallen for Richard Aon at first sight. Many young women admired him. He was noble, handsome, and skilled. But his cold demeanor kept most at a distance. Jasmine was the only one who held on. Later that day, she sat silently at tea with her friends. Duke Aon is too frigid, one of them murmured. He's handsome, but so distant. Even if you dated him, I think you'd feel insecure every day, another added. He says he has no interest in marriage at all, a third said with a sigh. That's why we admire him from afar, the First Lady agreed. But Jasmine had remained quiet. I still like him, she had thought. Back in the dressing room, Marie helped adjust her gown. You know how hard I've tried to win his heart, don't you? Jasmine asked. Of course I do, Marie replied. You changed so much. You studied, exercised, learned piano, stayed poised. The Grand Duke and Duchess are proud of you. Jasmine gave a soft, almost embarrassed laugh. What could possibly make him reject a woman like you? Marie asked. Even your father proposed the match in a handwritten letter. Jasmine nodded. He responded in less than a day. Her voice trembled as she recalled the words. Dear Most Honorable Grand Duke, I have no intentions of getting married yet. My father was furious, Jasmine said. He shouted, You can marry him over my dead body. Marie chuckled, mimicking the Grand Duke's voice. Jasmine smiled faintly. Even after that, you were the only one who still supported my feelings, she said. Marie gently squeezed her shoulder. Always, my lady. So, what will you do today? Jasmine drew a breath. I'm going to tell Duke Aon how I feel. One last time. I know he's aware, but I've never said it directly. Maybe I was afraid. Afraid that if he rejected me outright, I'd have to let go. But if he says no today, I'll move on. Oh, Lady Jasmine, Marie said, her eyes misty. I'll support you no matter what. Jasmine stood, smiling. That's reassuring. Anyway, how do I look? Absolutely stunning, Marie replied with a grin. Thank you, Jasmine whispered. But even as she smiled, the memory of his earlier rejection made her stomach twist. Later that afternoon, Jasmine found herself standing silently by the window of the Knight Commander's residence. Inside, Richard was speaking with another woman. Jasmine had come to confess, but her courage faltered. Is it too late already? She thought. Just then, she heard the woman's voice, Naza. So that's why you turned down Lady Jasmine? Naza asked. Yes, Richard replied coldly. Jasmine's breath caught. Don't lie, Naza said, her voice sharp. I know you still haven't gotten over Lily. Richard's gaze darkened with sadness. Jasmine stood frozen. Lily? So there's someone else? He loves someone else? The realization left her speechless. I know you really cared about Lily, Naza said, her voice casual. But you two weren't meant to be. You need to stop dwelling on it. There are plenty of fish in the sea. Richard's jaw tensed. He clenched his fist and muttered, Shut up. Hey, I'm just saying, Naza teased. The longer you hold on to something that's over, the harder it'll be for Lily too. I get it. So stop talking, Richard replied coldly, his voice low and strained. Outside, Jasmine watched from the corridor window, her breath caught. I've never seen Duke Aon like this before, she thought. So relaxed, almost vulnerable. Is he really this close to Princess Naza? Her chest tightened. But he's always been cold toward me. If only he showed me this side too. You're mad because I'm right, aren't you? Naza continued with a smirk. Well, someone has to tell you the truth. Richard sighed and rubbed the back of his neck. That's not true. Really? You, Mr. Emotionless, have other friends. Naza teased, surprised. Richard glanced away, then said quietly, Crown Princess Gillian asked me about my engagement to the Grand Duke's daughter. She did? Naza asked, sounding genuinely shocked. Outside, Jasmine's eyes widened. She leaned in slightly to hear better. It makes sense, Naza added. My sister thinks it would be politically advantageous if you were tied to House Riavani. So, what did you tell her? I said I declined the proposal, Richard replied, because I wasn't ready to start a family.
Neza raised an eyebrow.
Are you sure it wasn't because you just don't like her?
Jasmine's heart skipped a beat.
Her breath caught as she pressed a hand over her mouth, anxiously waiting for his response.
Richard lowered his gaze. Who am I to judge her? She's flawless. A noble woman from a distinguished family.
She'll find someone better than me. From her hiding spot, Jasmine's shoulders dropped.
So, he really doesn't like me.
I already knew, but it still hurts. I think she's kind and beautiful, Neza said thoughtfully. And the only way to move on is to find someone else.
I know, Richard replied. But, she asked sharply.
I just can't bring myself to do it, he admitted, sighing. Lady Jasmine is like a flower that belongs in a well-tended garden.
You can tell, just by looking at her family.
House Riavani is filled with love, something rare among nobles. I don't belong in that kind of world.
Outside, Jasmine trembled. What is he saying?
She thought, overwhelmed. You're so complicated, Neza muttered, rolling her eyes. Anyway, I need to go.
Oh, did you hear?
Lily's getting engaged.
I did,
Richard said, turning toward the window. It's good news.
Do you really mean that?
Neza asked, watching him closely.
Yes.
I do. With a nod, she left him alone. Richard stood still, his hand on his temple, eyes downcast. Damn it, he muttered, voice low. I'm so tired of unrequited love. He didn't see Jasmine standing outside, frozen in place, her heart heavy. After that day, Jasmine locked herself in her room. One morning, her brother James knocked loudly on her door.
Jasmine, are you staying in there all day again?
At this rate, I'll forget what you look like, he called, half joking. Inside, Jasmine didn't answer. Lady Jasmine, Marie, her maid, said gently, please open the door. She's been like this since she confessed to him, hasn't she?
James asked.
Yes, Lord James, Marie replied, sighing. Did he reject her?
It seems so, she said.
James sighed and leaned against the door. Even if he did, Jasmine, you can't hide away forever. He's right.
Marie added.
I'll handle this, James said.
Get her ready to go out.
I'll be back soon. Yes, my lord, Marie said firmly. Inside, Jasmine lay on her bed, face buried in her pillow.
Why won't they leave me alone? She thought.
Can't they see I'm trying to get over a broken heart? Lady Jasmine, Marie called gently.
Please open the door.
Pretty please.
The door creaked open.
Jasmine appeared, her expression tired and irritated. Why are you bothering me?
Marie flinched but stood her ground.
My lady, you haven't eaten in days.
You've been locked in your room since that day. Please, get dressed.
We're going out.
What? Where?
Lord James is taking you somewhere to cheer you up, Marie said quickly.
He thinks he can cheer me up? Jasmine thought skeptically.
Not long after, Jasmine, dressed and reluctantly prepared, followed James to the garden.
Come on, Jasmine, James said with a smile.
I want you to meet someone. Waiting ahead was a familiar figure. This is Duke Richard Aeon, James introduced. He's my junior from the academy. And this is my younger sister, Jasmine. Jasmine froze, stunned as her eyes met Richard's.
What is going on?
James rested a hand on her shoulder, grinning. Come on, you two. Say hello. Richard stood before her, his eyes soft as he took in her appearance. There was a familiar warmth in his voice.
It's been a while, Lady Jasmine.
You're as beautiful as ever, he said gently, his gaze lingering before he brought her hand to his lips for a polite kiss. Jasmine flushed briefly but pulled her hand away with composure.
So what? She thought. You don't like me. What does it matter?
Thank you, Your Grace, she replied, smiling politely. I believe we last saw each other at the year-end party.
Richard nodded thoughtfully.
Yes, I remember. We danced, didn't we? James grinned. That's right.
You two looked perfect together.
Like a painting come to life.
Jasmine stiffened. Her brother's tone made her uneasy.
What are you doing, James? Why are you suddenly acting like this? Once they were seated, James and Richard slipped into casual conversation. Jasmine stayed silent, her mind elsewhere. She watched her brother laugh and sip his tea like nothing was amiss.
He probably thinks I'm still hung up on Richard. Is it that obvious? She lowered her gaze. Well, it's true. I couldn't let go. But not anymore. He doesn't see me the same way.
I know that now, she thought, stealing a glance at Richard as he calmly sipped his tea, completely unaffected by her presence. I don't want to love someone who's already holding space for another woman in his heart, she thought, biting her lip and trying to hold back her emotions. After a while, James stood up. Well then, I'll go fetch the documents I mentioned, Your Grace, he said casually. What? Jasmine said suddenly, alarmed. You're leaving? James winked. Keep her company, would you? He told Richard with a grin.
Chin up, Jasmine. No.
James read the room. She thought, panicking inside.
I don't like him anymore. Please don't leave me alone with him.
But James was already gone. Now seated alone, an awkward silence fell between them. Jasmine looked away, fidgeting with the hem of her dress.
What do I say? Should I say anything? She wondered.
Finally, Richard broke the silence. Lady Jasmine, he said, his tone low, there's something I need to tell you.
She looked up in surprise.
Go ahead, she said cautiously. He sat up straighter, clearing his throat. I'm not good with words, he admitted. Especially not with things that matter.
There was a pause.
I have my flaws. Many, in fact. And I didn't want to hurt you, which is why I need to say this clearly. Jasmine's heart started to race. I know what this is, please, don't say it out loud. I wanted to talk about the marriage proposal between our families, Richard continued.
Jasmine looked down, her smile faltering.
Please, don't, she whispered. I know I already gave my answer in writing. But I thought it would be more respectful to say it in person.
Respectful? She thought bitterly.
You don't need to be polite just to hurt me all over again.
Her thoughts drifted to a past tea party.
Speaking of Duke Aeon, he seems like a gentleman, but doesn't he drive you mad?
He's too stiff. And tactless.
There's nothing wrong with him. Jasmine had snapped back, defending him. He's more of a gentleman than most. But even then, she had known. So many women have cried because of him. She looked at him now, eyes sharp despite her trembling voice. Oh my, how very polite of you. You rejected me once already. Was it necessary to do it again in person? Lady Jasmine, he began, looking pained. I get it, she said, cutting him off. I promise not to bother you again. I didn't realize you disliked me so much. Her voice wavered, but her expression remained composed. I must have been terribly out of line. Sending you that marriage proposal. How presumptuous of me. You must have been offended. Richard said nothing, his jaw clenched. You already made it clear, and yet here I am, drinking tea like I still have hope. You must think I'm pitiful. I'm sorry, Lady Jasmine, he said quietly. Hurting you was never my intention. She drew in a shaky breath, then stood from her seat. That's enough, she said firmly. I won't bother you again. I'm sorry for everything. Lady Jasmine, he called, his voice tense. But she turned away without answering, walking toward the path that led back to the estate. Her tears slipped silently down her cheeks. Behind her, Richard stood, unmoving. He took a single step forward, but stopped, watching her figure retreat with a look of regret clouding his face. Jasmine had once been a bright, carefree girl. Her days were filled with sweet treats and romance novels. Surrounded by a loving family, her biggest concern used to be choosing between fruit tarts or cream puffs for dessert. But after meeting Richard Aeon, everything changed. What once was a peaceful, simple life had turned into a tangled web of emotions. Now, sitting alone in her room, her eyes red with tears, she whispered to herself, I don't want to love you anymore either. James sat nearby, a cup of tea in his hand, watching her in silence.
He cleared his throat. Jasmine? Do you need anything?
No, she replied quietly, her voice flat. James sighed, unsure how to comfort her. He looked away, tense and visibly frustrated. Richard Aeon, you idiot, James thought, gripping his teacup. You're talented, respected, and good-looking, on par with me, the captain of the Blue Knights. He scoffed. That's the kind of man I thought was good enough for Jasmine. But the more he thought, the more bitter he became. What was he thinking? He muttered, slamming his fist against the table. How could he possibly reject you? Jasmine didn't respond. She just sat there, quietly hugging a teddy bear, her expression distant.
James noticed and tried again.
I mean, you're a bit of a mess right now, but…
She turned sharply. And no.
That's not what I meant, he said quickly, waving his hands in panic. What I mean is, you're amazing. Kind, thoughtful, graceful. You can stop talking, Jasmine interrupted, her voice cool. Are you trying to cheer me up or make fun of me? James winced. I didn't mean to upset you. Jasmine sighed, and the room fell into a heavy silence. She had spent years trying to become someone Duke Aeon could love, polishing her manners, taming her wild streak. But once, she'd been bold and unapologetically herself. Karas, she said suddenly. James blinked. Yes. You were right, she said, her voice calm but steady. About what?
She looked him in the eye.
Richard Aeon is a bastard. James's eyes widened slightly. Jasmine.
She sat up straighter.
I want to meet someone else, Karas. Later that week, Jasmine attended a masquerade ball with her brother. Dressed elegantly and masked, she held James's arm as they entered the grand hall. Music filled the air, and the soft chatter of nobles surrounded them. Are you really going through with this?
James asked, still surprised. I am, she replied.
No pressure, no titles. Just strangers dancing under candlelight. James nodded, though he could sense her nervousness.
Still, she looked more alive than she had in days.
As they strolled through the ballroom, a cheerful voice called out, "Oh my goodness! If it isn't Jasmine!" Jasmine turned to see a familiar face. Nikki! What are you doing here?
Nikki asked with a teasing grin.
Don't tell me you came to spy on Duke Aeon. Jasmine's smile faded. I don't like him anymore. Don't bring him up.
James stepped in. Please be considerate. She's not in the mood for jokes. Nikki turned to him. Oh.
You're here too, Sir Karas. Yes, he replied politely. Nice to see you again, Lady Nikki. Oh wow, you remembered me, she asked, eyes twinkling.
Of course.
You're my sister's friend. Hard to forget someone like you.
Nikki flushed. How charming of you. She turned back to Jasmine.
So, you're really here to meet someone new?
Jasmine gave a small nod.
Yes. Then you should have come alone.
Nikki said with a smirk.
Who brings their older brother to find a man?
Without warning, she grabbed James's arm. Come on, Sir Karas.
Let's give her some space. James hesitated but went along. Well, have a good evening, Jasmine, he said, looking back at her with a faint smile. As they walked away, Jasmine stood still, scanning the room. From across the hall, a masked stranger sipped his wine, watching her quietly. I don't think Nikki was trying to help me out of kindness, Jasmine thought, her gaze drifting toward the crowd. But she's right. I need to move on. I'll do whatever it takes to forget him. The ballroom glowed with warmth and laughter, but Jasmine felt none of it. She sat alone in a quiet booth, swirling the wine in her glass while the music and chatter faded into a dull hum. Her fingers gripped the stem of the glass tightly. I feel better now, she thought, taking another sip. At least no one's nagging me. From the corner of her eye, she noticed James looking tense as Nikki held his arm. He leaned in and whispered, Don't drink too much, Jasmine.
What's wrong with him? She thought irritably. I'm an adult.
Why is he always overreacting? As she climbed the stairs toward the terrace, she glanced down at the lively crowd below. It's not like I'm the only one drinking. This place is full of people just trying to enjoy themselves. Still, no matter how she justified it, the weight in her chest wouldn't lift. But how do I feel right now? She wondered, stepping into the cool night air. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. Leaning against the terrace railing, she hiccuped softly. Her thoughts were blurring, her vision beginning to spin. Did I drink too much? Then a male voice broke through the haze. Are you all right, my lady? Startled, Jasmine turned. A man she didn't recognize stepped toward her. Who are you? She asked, her tone defensive. I'm just someone drawn to a beautiful butterfly, he said with a smirk. She scowled. I'm not interested. Please leave. The man didn't move. You seem a little drunk. Let me take you home. I said no. I can manage. She took a step, but her balance wavered.
Her hand shot out, catching the edge of the railing. Her wine glass slipped from her grip and fell to the floor. My lady! The glass shattered loudly, its contents splashing across her dress. Seriously? Jasmine stared down at the mess.
Ever since that day, nothing's gone right. Let me help you, the man offered again, reaching toward her.
She slapped his hand away.
I told you, I don't need help.
Just go.
The man didn't back off. Come on, you came here to have fun, didn't you?
Don't be so cold.
Playing hard to get isn't attractive.
As he reached for her again. Is there a problem here? Came a cold voice.
Duke Richard stepped in, grabbing the man's wrist. Jasmine's with me, he said, his voice calm but steely. Do you have something more to say? The man hesitated, then backed off.
Richard turned to Jasmine. I'll walk you to your carriage. I'm fine. Stop following me, she snapped. I can't do that, he replied quietly.
You're clearly in no condition to be alone.
She stopped walking.
You must have too much free time, Your Grace, she said coolly.
He flinched at the tone.
Lady Jasmine.
She laughed bitterly.
Even though I clearly disgust you, you're suddenly being considerate.
What? I never said.
She stepped closer.
No.
Let me speak.
He fell silent. Never in my life have I been treated the way you treat me, she said, her voice tight. Do you hate me that much?
What have I done to deserve it? His expression wavered, but he said nothing.
When I'm around you, her voice cracked. I feel pathetic.
Like I'm not worth even a glance.
She looked down, hands trembling. You don't know what it's like.
How much pain you've caused, how deeply that flower you trampled once cared for you.
There was a pause, her tears now flowing freely.
You have no idea how miserable it feels.
There was silence.
Then, softly, he said, I do know.
Her eyes snapped up to meet his. I'm sorry, he added, his voice low. She stared at him, stunned. Then she shook her head. I wish you were just cruel.
That would have made it easier to hate you. Suddenly, the floor seemed to shift beneath her feet. Lady Jasmine.
Richard asked, alarmed. Her vision tilted. Her knees gave way.
Jasmine. He caught her just in time, cradling her as she collapsed. Please, stay with me, he murmured, holding her close, his expression stricken as her body slumped gently in his arms.
Thank you for joining us on this incredible adventure. If you enjoyed what you watched, please consider liking, subscribing, and ringing that notification bell. Your comments mean the world to us and help us improve. The next episode promises even more excitement and unexpected twists, so stay tuned as we embark on this thrilling journey together. Keep the anticipation alive, and we'll catch you in the next episode.